When working with shape, there are many supplies you might already have at home that you can cut up and use for collage. You might have some old cards. Lots of fourth graders have index cards for spelling words. So you'd have it lined on one side and it's blank on the other. So you can use markers to color one side, this unlined side. Or you can use crayons to color the other side. The only issue with crayons is they're waxy, so you cannot glue on top of crayons. You can glue other paper on top of markered paper. If you have tape, I have some painter's tape at my house, so I've got this really wonderful green tape. And I also have a glue stick, and I have scissors. And I also want to remind you, if you want to tear, you can tear. But just make sure your fingers are close together and tear opposite ways. It never works if they're too far. So you could pick it up and tear that way. Other supplies you might have an old cereal box, or you might have an old gift box. This is an old Eddie Bauer box. I really like the color on here. You might have wrapping paper. And you might have construction paper. You can also use cool cereal boxes. They make great collages. The following is a reminder of some tricks you can use to create geometric shapes. I have a piece of yellow paper, and I'm going to cut a long strip. This is a thinner strip. Then I also have a wider strip if I want. And when you feed the paper, you can get a fairly straight cut. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to cut, I'm guessing, around here to make a square. That's pretty good. If you're happy with it, you can even use that square to measure out the next one you want to make. If you have a square, it makes it fairly simple to cut a circle. You can't really cut a circle very well just cutting into a big piece of paper. If you're a righty, you make sure that the paper's in your left hand and you're curving in this direction. If you're left-handed, you're going to have your paper and curve your hand in this direction. Don't do it too hard and fast. You want to be gradual. Start around the middle of a side. Sort of aim for the middle of the other side. And use the hand that's holding the paper to curve the paper a little bit. Keep going. Now it's hard for me, I'm looking through the iPad. Yeah. That's a pretty good circle. It's not perfect, but nobody is. So we're going to put that circle up here. Now I can have a square, or I can cut corner to corner to make a great triangle. So 2 triangles. I can also make a smaller triangle by cutting in half again. I like to have lots of choices when I'm making a collage. So I'm going to cut lots because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be creating. You can also tear if you don't have scissors at home. Just tear a little bit at a time. Here's a great trick for cutting a straight line at home. If you don't have scissors, I'm going to take a straight edge of something like this box and then have a fork. Ask your parents if you can use this. You're going to hold down that straight edge. It could be a ruler, whatever else has a nice edge. And you're going to press down. I'm scoring. This is called scoring. You're not trying to rip it. You're trying to put a nice sharp crease in it so I can fold it. And if I fold it back and forth a few times, this is a great trick. Then I can tear it right on that score line. And that's a really nice square. Moreau is also known for his organic shapes, but you can't say that's a triangle or that's a square. What you could do is you could draw it first. I drew it in Sharpie. You don't need to do that. I did it so you could see. and just cut inside the line. That way you won't have any marker showing up or pencil showing up on your collage, which you really don't want. Personally, I don't like drawing at first. I like having a little fun with rotating my paper around. So there's a nice shape without any color. Or I could cut a nice, smooth, organic shape by wiggling my paper around. Looks sort of like a nose, doesn't it? So I have a lot of different shapes. I colored this index card black. This is the one I scored and folded. It didn't cut. And I have all these shapes up here. So now I'm going to sit down to do some arranging and overlapping of some of my organic and geometric shapes. Woohoo, I just scored. I was looking around my house because I really wanted some green paper, and I had an old sketchbook that had this beautiful green, so I'm going to cut that up a little bit too. How to cut a spiral. I'm going to start the way I did before with a square, then I'm cutting a circle. When you have your circle, you're going to start from the edge and keep cutting. You don't want to cut too much at a time because you want a really large spiral. And I'm trying to turn it smoothly because I don't like it when I get bumpy edges. I have a couple, but I can always take care of them later. And as I go in and in, it's super fun. I love making spirals. I know some of you do too. When you get in here, if you cut just a little bit as you go, you'll end up with some little pieces that come off, but if you're super careful, you'll end up with two spirals and you'll be able to use both of them. Probably would have been better if I had made my first spiral a little thicker. That way both spirals will be thick. This way I'm going to have a thin one. And that might be too hard to make it as thin as I did to begin. But I'm just going slowly, taking my time. And honestly, we have a lot of time right now. You could spend all day just cutting spirals and seeing what that's like if you can get better at that. When you get to the end, then you connect where the cuts are. And you'll end up with two spirals. To be careful untangling them. Take your time. Come on. There we go. So I have one and two spirals. Now with a collage, you want to play a little bit first. I really love the way the spiral, the green looks on top of the pinkish magenta color. Reminds me of all those great sneakers you all are wearing now. I'm not as happy with it on top of the yellow, but you might like that. So I'm arranging before I glue, and I'm creating, here I had a circle that I decided I would have more of an organic shape cut out. I can cut my shapes more, but definitely you want to start layering and having some fun with it. Because if you don't layer, it's just not as interesting. We also, so I keep arranging and deciding what I want. Oh, and I don't want to forget, I also have tape. So if you want to use tape as part of your collage, that's great too. Now, I know you're home, you might not have glue. I'd love to see these, even if you just arrange them, and you could keep them in a box and arrange in different ways and take photographs, because that is super interesting. That way you can have a lot of different collages. You could take your tape and be careful with it because it'll roll up on you if you're not like mine just did. harder to work with organic shapes with tape, but you can make a lot of fun stripes. Now I'm not done at all. I want to add some interesting details up here, but I want to see what you do with yours. Have fun with your collage. Be like Jean Moreau. Play and think and arrange. Bye.